Let's have a conversation.
So funny enough, it's 11:04 my time. I set this for 11 o'clock. I was speaking for 4 minutes and I was like, how come I see people in the comments, but I don't see any numbers of anyone watching this thing? And then I was like, I forgot to press the go live button. Oh, that's irritating. That is irritating. But anyways, to repeat everything that I just said at the beginning. Let's see. Hi D, hi Star, hi Tasha, hi Lisa. I think that's all I see in here. Anyways, I was saying that this episode was the best one of the season to me by far. This episode was very interesting and a very exciting episode, and I couldn't wait to get on here and start recapping this. Yeah, where's Ma to be like, Mark had a senior moment. I had a senior moment. It is what it is. I have to recap this whole thing that I just did at the beginning. So, I was saying Peppermint, Max, Marcus, and Bananas, as a recap, are out of the game. A new person is out of the game also, which is Deontay Wilder. I haven't really looked up any reason why he was out, but I'm speculating that because of how much of a hard time he had in the last episode mentally, and he was crying and everything when he picked the wrong traitor, that maybe I was going to say self-evicted. I don't know what you call it here. Killed himself. For YouTube, that's the name of the game. He evicted himself from the house. So he's no longer in the game. So where we left off in episode 3, Parvati was walking around trying to figure out who to give that chalice to, and she was having a hard time. Time was running out. It was really dramatic. He said it was bringing up trauma from his childhood. Oh, I see. So he said it was really dramatic with Parvati walking around with this chalice, and we're wondering, who is she going to give the chalice to? And eventually she locks in her target to Ekin-Su. So it was really weird how she did it. I just still think that it looked so shifty. And I guess Tasha was right when she said people were not really focused on that, because if they were, she was the shiftiest looking person there. And oh, you didn't notice that he was gone. Shiftiest person there. And she ended up getting Ekin-Su to take a little bit sip of the chalice, and then she handed it right back. So Dan and Phaedra didn't actually see who she gave the chalice to, because it was a really slick move and they weren't looking at her when it happened. So they were both unsure until they got to the table the next day. So the Traitors production ended up putting the 3 of them at the table first, I guess because they didn't have a chance to have a meeting. So they had a brief moment before everyone else got to the table where Parvati told Dan and Phaedra that it was Ekin-Su that she gave the poison chalice to. And in Phaedra's case, she was like, no, I didn't want Ekin-Su to get this poison chalice because she called me out last time, so that would put a little bit of suspicion on me. Whereas Dan is like, great, this could put some suspicion on Phaedra, because as we saw both last episode and this episode, he's thinking she's the most dangerous traitor, and she is, because she is the only one whose name has not seemed to be thrown out there so far. Parvati's name was thrown out there day one, despite the fact that she wasn't even a traitor at that point. Her name has been thrown out there already. I've only seen season 1 of Traitors and Traitors US, and I saw Traitors Can, and this is my 3rd season of Traitors. So for me, it's definitely the best episode, aside from, I would say, the season 1 finale for Traitors US. I loved the finale, but in terms of the non-finale episodes, I definitely have it up there. So when Janelle walked in, she was one of the first of the next group to walk in after the Traitors had their little conversation. And Janelle said in the confessional, like, I love everybody in here. And I found that funny because all the people that were in there before her were all Traitors. And she was talking about how she loves Phaedra, like she likes Phaedra the most. So the Traitors are coming in little by little by little. Everybody has their theories on who's not going to come back. Of course, Larsa is loud in the room again with her theories. She thinks that MJ is not going to come back, and then some people think that it's MJ that's not going to come back. Ekin-Su ends up walking in, and Dan and Phaedra, the Traitors, pretty much are looking at her like, why in the world is she walking through the door when she drank from the chalice? So everybody goes out, and the only person left, the last person left is John. So everybody thinks, okay, he got murdered. And then he walks through the door. And then everybody is like, oh, everybody is here. So what in the world happened? Here comes Alan with this awesome twist. I thought this twist was awesome. I don't know what y'all thought of it, but I loved it. So he comes in to tell them that nobody died. However, somebody was poisoned, and the poisoned player will die at the end of the day. And what they're going to have to do in their mission is dress up in their funeral outfits. One of the people isn't going to be coming back. They're going to be given questions, and the questions are going to be clues to narrow down who was the person who got poisoned. And then if they pick the correct person, they get $20,000 in the team bank account. I saw US, Australia, and London, I think. I love the twist. It was awesome. The twist was awesome. So now everybody is making all their different theories about who they think got the poison. They're like, was it something? It had to be someone that ate something or drank something. So this part, I thought that Trishelle, listen, I watched Trishelle all the way from the Real World Vegas, and that was the season that really got me into the real world. I had no faith in her being a good person on this show, like being good at the show. I'm not even saying she's good at the show, but I'm saying I almost thought she was onto something when she was talking about somebody offered somebody a drink, but I can't remember who. I was like, I thought the faithful were going to figure it out. They did some great editing to make it look like the faithful were going to figure it out. That's what I think. Hey, Ma. Lisa, Ma is on here. Okay. So Dan ends up talking to Parvati and telling her, I trust you, and we should possibly use this as an opportunity to put some doubt on Phaedra. And Parvati, this is interesting because Parvati is like, I understand where you're going with this, Dan. However, Phaedra is so insulated and protected by so many different people that taking a shot at her could be very detrimental. So this is the interesting thing that I find about this Parvati and Dan dynamic. Despite the fact that Parvati is making all the moves, Dan is in control. Dan has no control of what Phaedra is doing. But if y'all have noticed, Dan has a lot of control and say over what Parvati is doing. He's pulling all the puppet strings and then backing out of the way. y'all saw in my episode 1 to 3 review that I did with Tasha, I was like, Dan is kind of down bad right now. What's going on with Dan? Dan found his angle. Dan, this was a Dan episode. Dan came up big in this episode. I'll get more to that later. So they get to the funeral, and as I was saying, they have to guess who got poisoned to win the 20K. They know one person is not leaving. So the first question was they did this song about bananas, and the question was about who Bananas trusted the most. He picked the people that have been on TV with him, Trishelle and CT, so they got that right. And I was laughing because CT said, this is the first time Bananas has ever saved me. So we end up getting a couple of more questions, and the last 3 people, they guessed all the clues right, and the last 3 people left were Parvati, hey Caswash, were Parvati, Ekansu, and MJ. Those are the final 3 people. They lined up 3 coffins. Anytime I see one of these things about going and laying in a coffin, I would be like, y'all, I'm out. Talk about a nightmare to me, like being alive and laying my body down in a coffin. I'd probably do it for the sake of the show, but I would have to go to hella therapy after that was over. But anyways, there's 3 coffins lined up, and they have to those 3 of them have to go lay in those coffins. And everybody who claustrophobia, tell me about it. And anybody who the cast thinks is the traitor, they have to throw not the traitor, who they think got poisoned. They have to throw a black rose on top of them in the open casket. Yeah, I would be freaking out 1,000%. Yeah. Did you not see it, Lisa? So anyways, the majority of the cast throws their black rose on MJ. So they're all wrong, as we already know. And Alan is like, okay, y'all are wrong. Y'all lost the $20,000 for the team. And the person who was murdered was Ekinsu. So yes. So Parvati and MJ get out of the coffin, and then they close the coffin, and I'm pretty sure that she probably got out, because I was thinking of that. I know this is just a random thought, but I am quite sure that they probably let her get out of the coffin before the pallbearers took her and put her in the dirt and started burying her. Because that's just I would be like, I'm already out. You're not about to close the coffin and then put me in the dirt and start throwing dirt on me after I'm already out of the game. And I don't think that happened. They might have closed it, but they probably let her come out. But anyways, that's just my personal thought about that. So now everybody is like, this is interesting. Why would they poison Ekinsu? What reason do they have to poison Ekinsu? Haven't watched tonight's episode yet. Gotta wait till tomorrow. Hey, I really liked Ekinsu. Hey, DM Rocks. So now Parvati starts getting to work and saying that she thinks that it could have been Larsa because Larsa was talking so much. Janelle didn't what? Yeah. So Larsa starts going around. This is a continuation of her theory because she was already saying this from the time Marcus got out. She was like, all the people that are getting out are physical threats, and who would be somebody who would want to take out big physical threats? And she's saying she thinks that it's a man. She thinks it's an alpha male. So her choice is between Dan and CT, but she seemed to lock in on CT. I'm gonna get to Phaedra. Janelle hated Ekin-Su. Well, they weren't really throwing any darts at Janelle. Strangely, it didn't seem like they were really. I mean, I don't know. Maybe her name was thrown out a couple of times, but there wasn't any kind of strong suspicion on Janelle. So Larsa is saying it's between CT and Dan, and then Sandra ended up alerting Dan. So Sandra worked as an agent to help Dan and CT, and she doesn't like Larsa. So she's like, we should flip this thing basically and get Larsa up out of here. So Janelle mentioned that when Marcus left, she was like, cheers. She was like, cheers in the morning at the table. And I guess insinuating that she poisoned Marcus. I don't know. I mean, I guess when you don't know and you weren't really paying too much attention to who was doing what, you just come up with whatever theory you can come up with. But a lot of people ran with that theory because a lot of people remembered Larsa doing the cheers, and I guess she didn't help her case because she was so loud and she was so strong with all her convictions about her theories. Sandra definitely has bad reads. So we get to the round table, which is my favorite part of any episode. I love these round table moments where they can make the theories, take shots at each other, argue with each other. So Larsa calls out CT at the table. CT, she basically makes it clear that her theory is that it's a big alpha male that wants to take out other alpha males. And CT assures her that he's a faithful. I wish Ekin-Su wasn't drunk and remember she drunk out of a dusty cup. I was wondering if she was going to remember, but I'm surprised that she didn't remember. Now that they have that after show thing that they're showing on YouTube, if that's up or when that gets up, I'm going to check it out. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Kevin had a little argument with MJ, and Kevin said, if I was a traitor, I would get rid of you. Now, this is the part that I wanted to talk about. I forgot to mention it earlier, but I'm going to mention it now. Parvati is kind of doing Dan's dirty work. She's executing Dan's missions. And Dan's mission, as I said earlier, was to bring some of the attention from this chaos over to Phaedra and have people start thinking that it could be Phaedra. So the angle that Parvati uses is to go around and say, this housewives clique is very strong in this house. And it's possible that two of them could be traitors. And then CT also said it's been going around that the housewives could be the traitors. It's one thing for Parvati to have planted that seed. Maybe that was a smart move. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I guess it was a smart move for this week, but I don't know. But the problem that I had is the fact that she mentioned it at the round table. Because as soon as she said, oh, these housewives are actors and all that stuff, one of the traitors that you're working with is one of the housewives. So I knew that she was not going to take kindly to that. She should have done that. That's what I'm saying. That like that's not the time for her to have said that. The strategy, maybe that was a good strategy, but the timing of saying it there revealed her hand and got all of them mad at her. So they're going to remember her saying that. So basically, everybody is thinking it could be one of the housewives. They're all actresses, and Larsa is basically the head of the snake. So we have kind of a pretty close thing between Kevin and Phaedra. And provocative. Anyways, we have this pretty close thing between Phaedra and Kevin. Why did I say Phaedra and Kevin? Larsa and Kevin. And Larsa ends up being the one getting voted out, which she's probably mad and happy about at the same time. Mad because she was a faithful, but happy because now she can go back to Marcus. And now we're like, what's going to happen here in the aftermath? A lot of people are pissed. Obviously, we're 4 episodes in, and they still have not gotten a traitor out yet, which is kind of similar to how Traitors US 1 happened. So we still have our 3 traitors intact. But now there's going to be serious trouble in paradise. Here's where it got spicy and messy. We get into the end of the night where the traitors meet up. Phaedra went off. She just took off the hoodie and was like, that was messed up. She was talking to Parvati like, that was messed up. You, by calling attention to the housewives, called attention to me. And she was like, if you're not going to play fair, it's going to be a different game. She said, I played fair all this time, and that was not fair. Both of y'all. By the way, Tasha, let me know if you want to jump up here. Let me know. I'll drop the link in the comments. It's up to you. But anyways, yeah. So my thoughts about Phaedra kind of declaring war in there on Dan and Parvati. This is not a Sari Fields game, because I compared her a little bit to Sari early on. I'm like, she's got no heat on her. Nobody's worried about her. Nobody's throwing her name out there. Even if you do have a plan to get them out or put suspicion on them, they both already have suspicion on them. I think the worst thing to do is to actually tell them that you are basically declaring war on them because you are upset that they, in a sense, blindsided you. She was really upset about it. She was really emotional about it. And she kind of threw her game out the window a little bit. But with that being said, Phaedra, the thing that makes it interesting regardless is that Phaedra does have a lot of protection in the house. Dan came out really good in this particular episode, actually, because his name wasn't written down. The only person who was mentioning his name was Larsa. Larsa's out of there. Not to say that Dan has no suspicion out of him, on him right now, but he has less. It seems like he has much less suspicion this week than what he had last week. And then there's so much more chaos going on that doesn't involve him that he's kind of sitting pretty in a way. Phaedra planted a seed with Sandra. Yeah, getting Larsa out was great for Dan because Larsa was locked in on Dan. Dan. I think that the only reason that she picked CT over Dan, I think that if she was in for 2 weeks and they got CT out this week, Dan would be out next week. That's what I think. So therefore, man, it was a really solid episode. I don't know who's gonna get murdered next week. We have to wait a whole week. I hate the week at a time thing as well. But I said this before. I understand why they do it because, for an example, the Circle released, I think there was 13 episodes, and they did like 3, 3, 3, 3, and then 1. Like they released the final episode as its own episode, but that's because it's Netflix. Peacock, I think there's only so few shows that people actually subscribe to that network for. So they're like, we're going to drag this out over like 3-4 months. But yeah, great episode. Enjoyed it, loved it. I think that out of the 3 Traitors, Dan came out the big winner this week. And I don't know, I think Phaedra and Parvati both took an L. And if they're not working together and they're working against each other, ooh, I might have been too early to jump to conclusions about my boy Dan Giesling. I was like, who is this Dan Giesling that I watched masterfully strategize his way through? But once a killer, always a killer. Dan is a killer. The song leading to the round table is so cinematic, like Hunger Games. I like the song lead. I like that. I like when they walk into the table, and then I also like on the circle when they're doing the hallway walk. Those 2 cinematic walks are great. Thank you, Mark, for your show. I was happy knowing that I could come here and chat. Thank you, Stargator. I appreciate that. I appreciate you stopping by. You know, I've said this before. Oh, okay. That's what you were saying. I said this before, but I used to watch this show on YouTube called AfterBuzz TV. It was run by Maria Menounos. I don't know if any of you know who she is, but when I would watch her was basically after I'd watch the challenge because nobody in my household watched the challenge. And I think historically I had maybe 2 friends that watched the challenge and they both stopped watching the challenge and I was still watching it. So I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. So I remember I would throw on AfterBuzz TV and they had a panel of like 4 or 5 people that would break down the episode and give their different thoughts about it. And at that point in time when I was watching that, I never thought that I would ever do that. I really didn't think that this would be something that I'd ever do. But because of things like that, you know, this is fun for me because I get to chat with all of you and see everybody's different opinions that they have. So I appreciate y'all for being on here too. So if you are one of the Traitors, this is my last question and then I'm out of here. If you were one of the Traitors, who would you murder next? Well, I guess we have more things to think about than that. If you were Dan and Parvati, I mean, I'm saying Parvati, they were calling her Poverty. I don't know. Maybe it's Poverty. I don't know. But her name is an interesting spelling. I've never seen it before. But anyways, if you were one of them, would you, with Dan, try to take out Phaedra next? Or would you make some kind of temporary truce and start planting some seeds? I don't know. I feel like Phaedra, obviously, with what she said, has now become very dangerous to them. Dan already scoped out that she was going to be dangerous, but obviously now she declared war. And I don't blame her for doing that. It's just the fact that she didn't do it strategically. This is the problem. You never give the enemy the chance to strategize. Sorry, Ma. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but it is what it is. It's too early, but Phaedra's no joke. She is no joke. But the thing is, she, despite the fact that a desperate housewife was called out, think about this. Think about the fact that Larsa was taken out and Larsa was a faithful. So yes, I would be upset, but at the same time, I don't think that anybody was like, you know what? Let's just try all of them until one of them goes. Please pronounce patron correctly. Okay, Swakash. Will do. I would think that it's they should definitely go for Phaedra and try to get her out. I think they should plant those seeds. Sari got into it with Cody and he got banished. Well, you do make a good point. It's not a guarantee. Like, I think that Phaedra has more people on her side. So it would still be hard to get her out, even with her declaring war. But I think Cody already had a lot of suspicion on him. So that was a little bit different for me. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's see. What do I have next? I think that's it for the week because I already recapped the challenge. I recapped the Traitors, and that's the only thing that I am recapping at this present moment. But you know, I'm always here. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get notified when I drop some more great content. And I hope that everybody has an amazing night.
You are now tuned in to Mindful Reality, the channel that covers reality TV from a mental health perspective.
What's up, family? It's Mimi from Big Brother Season 25, and you are now tuned in to Mindful Reality with Mark. I need for y'all to stop what you're doing and make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe because the math ain't mathin', okay?